We're going to talk about the hand drill today, and for that, the book says we need a long shaft of a particular sort of wood. Any wood with a pith in it. This is willow. We put it into our baseboard and we rotate between our fingers on the palm of our hands as fast as we can, going down the shaft, and when we get towards the bottom, we start again. This generates friction, which then generates heat, which produces a fine dust. The finer the dust, the more prospect for fire or an amber at the end of it. If it's quite a coarse dust, the chances are, through your hands, you can't generate enough heat for produce an amber. So that's something to look out for when you're practicing on woods. If it's rough dust, you're not likely to get there. The finer the dust, the more prospect there is. I personally can't apply enough downward pressure. I'm needing more practice. The way around this, from the shaft of wood, we put a notch in the top, piece of string, get it round the right way, and we manage to put our thumbs in the loops. I've got some leather ones here to make things a bit easier on my thumb. This way, when we're drilling, we're just going in a backward and forth motion, and when we start producing smoke, we start going faster. But with the downward pressure, I can lean into this, putting weight on my thumbs, applying the downward pressure. I found this the most successful way. This is a shaft of elderflower. Problem with elderflower, and most of the products we're going to use, with the exception of reeds, is finding one long enough so you can do the downward pressure and get enough strokes going down the shaft. The way around this is to cut yourself a piece of, this is hazel, or any wood what is straight. And now to the proper wood that we're going to actually use for the fire, cut little sections. And as they're pithy, we can drill these out and make an insert what sits on top. See if I can get this one off. It needs to be on there quite snug, so obviously to take the rotation pressure. As this tip is the only thing what's going to be contact with our baseboard, this is the only one what we're going to actually look for to produce the amber. So that's a way around if you can't find the materials. This is the most likely aspect you're going to have to do. This way you can obviously really trim down the harder wood that you're using as your shaft. It needs to be quite smooth, or as smooth as you can make it, because your hands will rough up and you will get blisters. Practicing this technique at the moment, so I'm in the garden. When I produce these tips, I produce quite a few out of one thing, chucking away any bent ones and keeping the best for this practice. Make a little bangle for yourself as well if you wanted. So we're going to address the fireboard now. This is my fireboard. This is elderflower, and I'm also going to use the elderflower spindle to produce an amber. It's very similar to the bow drill method, where we drill notches into it. Ideally, this should be a bit longer, so I could use it on my foot, but I'm going to use the workbench to bring it up to waist level for the film work today. Also, I'm on my own, so I'm going to be using this to brace it and hold it in place. We've set our baseboard in place now. We're going to start by trying the spindle in the depression and see if it's going to rotate freely. We're looking for any bumps or snags or anything like that what's going to displace it. That's moving pretty good. We're going to get ourselves set up by putting our fingers in our loop. Getting ready for some work. Going to need some lubrication on your hands, so a quick spit. If we wanted to speed this process up, we could add a bit of sand in the depression. And we start off very slow. We don't want to be wearing ourselves out. This takes quite a lot of puff. We're going to bed it in nicely. And when we feel it's going okay, we can increase a bit of downward pressure and a little bit more speed. And what I'm looking for is the darkness and a couple of whiffs of smoke. There's our baseboard charred. I've got to cut a notch into this now. We've cut out our 1/8. We need to put our amber cutter underneath and set in place. So we're going to get ourselves in position now, which is thumbs in, squeeze in, and we're going to splay our fingers out, so we're just using the palm of our hands. And also I'm going to lean forward into it so the weight of my shoulders are bearing down on my thumbs, putting downward pressure. Again, we're going to need to lube our hands up, so that's a bit of spit, to give ourselves a bit of extra grip. So we're all set, and again we start off slow, concentrating on our breathing, and this is called warming up the set. When we start seeing whiffs of smoke, that doesn't mean we've got fire, that's just the wood heating up. What I'm looking for is a continuous stream of smoke coming from the spindle and socket. At the moment we're just generating heat and charred dust. The more smoke I see, the quicker I'll try to go. Preferably without jumping out too many times. That's our charred notch full now. I'm going to take a couple of breaths and zoom in onto the actual fireboard. Our notch has got a fine dust in it now. Keep your hands well lubed up, it soon runs out. And take some deep breaths. This is where the real work begins. Unlike with the bow drill method where we got the bow to do the gear work for us, it's all down to us. So again, we're going to start off slower and even pace, giving ourselves a little bit when we produce the smoke. Well, hopefully a little bit left. And now our cowl is self-sustained. There's a little bit of wind today, you can probably hear it on the camera. At this point we take our time. We remove the baseboard carefully, making sure we leave none of the amber behind. We allow it to grow and solidify. Put some tinder together now. And I've rubbed the shed some tinder, and we let our coal blow. If it wasn't so windy we could gently fan this. We're going to pop this in there now. And the wind's going to do a lot of the work for us today. And we're going to squeeze this reasonably tight. We're going to let the wind pass through it will blow down the tube. I can feel the heat in my hand, so I'm going to turn the paper over. And it's burnt through. And we produce flames. We then add this to our fire and catch a fire. That's fire through the handrail.